Have you ever felt a chill run down your spine on a seemingly ordinary night? Join me as we unravel a tale that will keep you on the edge of your seat, where the line between reality and the unknown blurs. I lead a lifestyle that many would call straight edge, so when I say that what I experienced last New Year's Eve was undeniably real, I mean it. Living on the outskirts of a typical small southern town, I often find myself traveling along dark country roads to visit friends. One such friend, Darren, lives with his family in one of the wealthier neighborhoods in the area that can only be reached by these back roads. Every year his family throws a party at their house on New Year's Eve, where all the family's friends are invited, myself included. It's a pretty fun occasion, so I'm always excited when I get the formal invitation from Darren's parents in the mail. As the date approached, I could feel the anticipation building. The weather in the south can be unpredictable during winter. It didn't get really cold until just a few days before New Year's Eve. I remember stepping outside into the newly frigid air and feeling a sharp contrast to the mild temperatures we had enjoyed just days before. The bumpy, unkempt country roads made for an uncomfortable ride to Darren's house. Usually, I don't drive with my brights on since I hate how other drivers always blind me with theirs, but the sheer darkness of the windy, narrow road necessitated it this time. The road was flanked on both sides by dense tree lines, making it difficult to see where all the twists and turns lay ahead. Notably, there weren't any other houses between the turnoff to the road and Darren's neighborhood except for a lone shack that seemed like it had been abandoned for years. Occasionally, I could see lights flickering inside whenever I passed this way. It added an eerie touch to my drive as shadows danced across my windshield. A few minutes into the drive, on a particularly straight section of the road, my headlights illuminated something ahead among the trees, something white against the darkness. As I neared, I could see it was the shape of a person standing all alone on the side of the road. They weren't moving or hiding, just standing completely still with their back turned to me. It was a woman evidently wearing a white dress or gown of some sort, not at all appropriate for the cold night air. I didn't turn my brights off out of caution, so I couldn't really make out any specific details in the reflective glare of her white dress as I passed her. Thanking my lucky stars that she didn't step out into the middle of the road, causing me to stop, I began to wonder if maybe I should have stopped to see if she needed help. Perhaps she was another guest trying to get to Darren's party, but it wasn't until I looked back in my mirror to see, in the red glare of my rear lights, that she had turned her body to follow me, still frozen in that one spot. It was definitely creepy, and in that moment, I was glad I'm not typically known as a good Samaritan. No way was that woman a fellow party guest. Arriving at Darren's house around 8 p.m. felt like a relief after that unsettling encounter. I parked in the gravel circle among the dozen or so other cars outside Darren's house, which was situated in a large clearing surrounded by forest, just like all the other spaced houses in this neighborhood. The festivities went on until we had watched both the ball drop in New York as well as our own time zone's clock striking 12. Afterward, everyone slowly started to clear out. The atmosphere was filled with laughter and joy as people exchanged stories about their year and shared resolutions for what lay ahead. It felt good to be surrounded by friends and family during such a festive occasion. I stayed behind a bit to help clean up as I usually did since I was one of Darren's closer friends. By the time I left, my car was the only one left at the front of their house. When I got in and started it up, however, a low tire pressure light illuminated on my dashboard. My car is an older model, so it didn't give me exact details about which tire was low or how many had issues. Before freaking out, I remembered that this sort of thing always happens with my tires when winter first turns cold after a long warm period. They tend to lose pressure quickly due to temperature changes. Figuring I'd be able to make it home okay, despite this minor inconvenience, I decided not to worry too much about it. But before driving off, I recalled that woman I'd seen on my way there. Was she still out there somewhere? Had anyone else come across her? There was another way in the opposite direction that could take me home to avoid that road entirely. However, it would add another 20 minutes or so to my commute. Not wanting to prolong my journey late at night with possible drunk drivers out and about on New Year's Eve, I decided to suck it up and return via the same dark road. I really wish I hadn't made that choice. Not even a few minutes into my drive on that same dark back road did I feel something was wrong. There was an unsettling scraping noise echoing beneath me as if something were dragging along with my tires. My heart raced as my car came to an abrupt halt. "This is a different situation entirely," I muttered under my breath as panic set in. Against my better judgment, I had to get out of the car to see what was wrong. Stupidly turning off the engine and shutting the door plunged me into complete darkness with only my phone flashlight to guide me. Scanning each tire with dread pooling in my stomach made my heart sink. I discovered each and every one had been ripped to shreds as if they were torn apart by some animal's claws. I could have reasoned that if one had suffered from a large puncture due to hitting something on this bumpy road, maybe it could have caused more damage. But all 4 tires? This was deliberate. Standing around hopelessly with no one likely out at such an hour on this deserted road, even on New Year's Eve, I realized I'd have no choice but to call for help or arrange for someone else to come get me. But of course there was no phone service this deep into the boondocks. Just as I was about to get back into my car, the gentle wind died down completely, the barren tree branches stopped swaying, and even wildlife activity ceased entirely. It felt like time itself had stopped for just 1 minute before suddenly hearing an ominous snap of twigs somewhere within those trees. Something was moving around. I froze. Never had I experienced such silence before. It felt like prey sensing danger nearby. Then came an unsettling voice from within that darkness. "I see you." My stomach dropped. All air seemed sucked from my lungs, leaving me unable even scream. It was a woman's voice, soft yet quiet, coming from just 15 feet away among those trees. There wasn't any malice present within her tone, which somehow made everything even creepier. In that moment of paralyzing terror, all I wanted was simply curl up onto ground and disappear into nothingness. Then came another chilling question. "Can you see me?" It wasn't until hearing her voice again that fight or flight response kicked into high gear. Disoriented while standing there amidst darkness, I knew turning phone light back on would be necessary if any chance existed for escape. Aiming flashlight directly ahead revealed her standing at edge tree line, the woman dressed entirely in white. Her features were now visible under beam. Dirt smeared across gown, covered with dark stains. She looked deathly pale, skinny as rail, with disheveled gray hair cascading down past elbows. But what horrified most were her facial features. They seemed almost indescribable, grotesque, as if missing half jaw, yet attempting grin at me. In sheer horror mixed indecision, I kept flashlight trained upon her for what felt like eternity before instinct kicked back in. I bolted down road towards Darren's house. Ignoring everything else around me, I pounded furiously upon their door, pleading desperately for someone inside. "Open up." Darren's mother answered quickly upon seeing how shaken up I appeared. She ushered me inside without hesitation, while Darren and his father joined us moments later after hearing frantic story recounted. They listened sympathetically, offering comfort, while suggesting staying overnight there, while calling both police along towing services, which gladly accepted before contacting family myself. The police assured us they would search area around road immediately, while telling me could come retrieve car, make official statement tomorrow morning. All wanted right now, put night behind fade sleep within guest bedroom, but soon found out night wasn't over yet. I awoke from sleep around 3 a.m. due soft tapping sounds coming from second-story window, jolting awake. Glancing over digital clock beside bed, confirmed time exactly 3:14 a.m., and despite knowing none, these windows had blinds drawn over them. I didn't dare look outside until hearing muffled voice calling out again, "I see you." The same woman had followed me here. She'd chased after until arriving here, and now stood outside throwing rocks against glass, trying to get attention. If anything could keep awake now, it would, knowing she wouldn't stop until morning, when sunlight finally broke through. When dawn arrived, along with Darren's family waking up, we looked outside together before police arrived, shortly thereafter, where they'd heard everything earlier last night. Darren's father found something horrifying, a large rusty knife hidden near, where heard voice calling earlier. It became clear she targeted only me during all those festivities, while everyone else remained inside enjoying themselves. Darren's parents called other party guests, asking if they'd seen anything suspicious last night. One friend mentioned seeing someone dressed in white wandering around outside through their window, but thought nothing much about it, since people were going throughout evening festivities anyway. When giving police statement, I told them should check around abandoned shack along road here, since something told me she might have lived there, but when they eventually did, they updated us saying no one lived there anymore. However, they did find dead wildlife sprawled throughout surrounding woods nearby. That woman who haunted us never turned up again, which raised many unsettling questions afterward. How did she track down so quickly once leaving party? And despite missing half her face, how could she pronounce those words so clearly? Despite everything happening tonight, I still plan on returning again next year for New Year's Eve at Darren's house, but this time we'll ensure carpooling while taking long route instead. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to like and share. Years later, when reflecting back upon those events, it still sends shivers down spine thinking about how close things came. When reflecting upon life choices made during travels, especially those involving transportation, it reminds us how important safety truly is. One such experience occurred when traveling via plane from San Diego back home after visiting friends, a trip filled with memories worth cherishing. Upon landing around midnight, I waved down random taxi driver waiting nearby who offered reasonable fare compared against Uber prices available today. After loading bag into trunk, he pulled away smoothly onto highway heading toward destination without issue, until conversation took unexpected turns, leading toward discomforting territory. Initially, friendly banter turned flirty quickly once he began asking personal questions regarding relationships, even commenting about attractiveness compared against friends living elsewhere. Feeling uneasy, I maintained composure while responding casually, though inwardly growing more uncomfortable by each passing moment. When glancing up toward familiar overpass, signaling nearing exit, I realized he wasn't slowing down at all, despite repeated reminders indicating where needed off-ramp lay ahead. Panic surged within, heart racing faster than vehicle itself. What if he intended harm? What if something sinister lurked beneath surface appearances? As we zoomed past next exit, I demanded louder than ever, before stating clearly, "You need get off here," hoping urgency would prompt action, but instead met silence, followed by glare through mirror-reflecting annoyance instead. Still maintaining slight sassiness throughout exchange, I decided enough was enough after he continued pressing questions regarding boyfriend's name without hesitation. Feeling vulnerable yet determined, I slipped headphones into ears, hoping distraction would deter unwanted attention, while simultaneously texting family members, sharing location, just case things turned sour unexpectedly. With every red light encountered along route home, it felt like eternity, waiting while glancing nervously toward driver, whose eyes remained glued onto mine through rearview mirror. Finally arriving main road, leading toward town, but eerily deserted, given late hour approaching 1 a.m. during weeknight. At last stopped at another red light. I felt his gaze burning deeper than ever before, sending chills racing down spine once again. In sudden burst decision-making mode, I recalled advice given previously regarding safety measures taken during uncomfortable situations. With police car parked nearby, I grabbed belongings, sliding van door open, despite him yelling demands, urging against leaving vehicle behind. Instead, bolting straight toward officer, waiting inside patrol unit rolling window, down immediately upon noticing distressed expression plastered across face. Explaining entire ordeal briefly, while requesting assistance, officer nodded understandingly, assuring safety remained priority above all else. As taxi driver sped away without chasing after us, it confirmed every suspicion lingering within mind regarding intentions hidden beneath surface appearances. That experience taught valuable lesson regarding vigilance necessary when navigating unfamiliar environments, especially during late hours. What do you think is going to happen next? Let us know in the comments. Expanded Part 2 A Terrifying Encounter Continued. As days turned into weeks following those unsettling events, the memories lingered heavily within mine, reminding us never take safety lightly, regardless how mundane situations may seem initially. Years later, still haunted memories linger behind, reminding us never take safety lightly, regardless how mundane situations may seem initially. Reflecting upon life choices made during travels, especially those involving transportation, it reminds us how important safety truly is. One such experience occurred when traveling via plane from San Diego back home after visiting friends, a trip filled with memories worth cherishing. Upon landing around midnight, I waved down random taxi driver waiting nearby who offered reasonable fare compared against Uber prices available today. After loading bag into trunk, he pulled away smoothly onto highway, heading toward destination without issue, until conversation took unexpected turns, leading toward discomforting territory. Initially, friendly banter turned flirty quickly once he began asking personal questions regarding relationships, even commenting about attractiveness compared against friends living elsewhere. Feeling uneasy, I maintained composure while responding casually, though inwardly growing more uncomfortable by each passing moment. When glancing up toward familiar overpass, signaling nearing exit, I realized he wasn't slowing down at all, despite repeated reminders indicating where needed off-ramp lay ahead. Panic surged within, heart racing faster than vehicle itself. What if he intended harm? What if something sinister lurked beneath surface appearances? As we zoomed past next exit, I demanded louder than ever, before stating clearly, "You need get off here," hoping urgency would prompt action, but instead met silence followed by glare through mirror, reflecting annoyance instead. Still maintaining slight sassiness throughout exchange, I decided enough was enough after he continued pressing questions regarding boyfriend's name without hesitation. Feeling vulnerable yet determined, I slipped headphones into ears hoping distraction would deter unwanted attention, while simultaneously texting family members, sharing location, just in case things turned sour unexpectedly. With every red light encountered along route home, it felt like eternity waiting, while glancing nervously toward driver, whose eyes remained glued onto mine through rearview mirror. Finally arriving main road leading toward town, but eerily deserted given late hour approaching 1 a.m. during weeknight. At last stopped at another red light. I felt his gaze burning deeper than ever before, sending chills racing down spine once again. In sudden burst decision-making mode, I recalled advice given previously regarding safety measures taken during uncomfortable situations. With police car parked nearby, I grabbed belongings, sliding van door open, despite him yelling demands, urging against leaving vehicle behind. Instead bolting straight toward officer, waiting inside patrol unit rolling window down, immediately upon noticing distressed expression plastered across face, explaining entire ordeal, briefly, while requesting assistance. Officer nodded, understandingly, assuring safety remained priority above all else. As taxi driver sped away without chasing after us, it confirmed every suspicion lingering within mind regarding intentions hidden beneath surface appearances. That experience taught valuable lesson regarding vigilance necessary when navigating unfamiliar environments, especially during late hours. What do you think is going to happen next? Let us know in the comments. Expanded Part 2, A Terrifying Encounter, continued. Reflecting upon both experiences, the haunting encounter alongside taxi ride home serve reminder about important staying aware, surroundings regardless situation faced daily basis. Life often presents challenges requiring quick thinking under pressure, especially when dealing unforeseen circumstances arising unexpectedly. Years later, still haunted memories linger behind, reminding us never take safety lightly, regardless how mundane situations may seem initially. As we continue journey through life, encountering various challenges ahead, we must remain vigilant, protecting ourselves against potential dangers lurking just beyond sight. In conclusion, stories shared serve purpose beyond mere entertainment. They highlight significance, remaining cautious, navigating world-filled uncertainties, awaiting discovery around every corner encountered along the way. If you enjoyed these spine-chilling tales, filled suspenseful twists, turns throughout journey, shared here today, make sure, subscribe, channel, hit notification, bell, never miss opportunity, dive deeper into realm, nightmares, waiting exploration next time around. Reflecting on the chilling experiences from that night, both the haunting encounter with the stranger and the unnerving taxi ride home, serve as stark reminders about the importance of staying aware of our surroundings, regardless of the situation. Life often presents challenges that demand quick thinking, especially when unexpected circumstances arise. We are so often caught in the rhythm of our daily routines, lulled into a false sense of security, thinking the worst could never happen to us. But sometimes the most terrifying moments occur when we least expect them. Years have passed since that unsettling night, yet the memories refuse to fade. They linger, like stubborn shadows that seem to stretch longer the darker the room becomes. Despite the passage of time, those memories remain vivid and haunting, forever etched into the deepest corners of my mind. The sense of unease never fully left me, and in some ways, I wonder if I'll ever truly escape it. As dawn finally broke over Darren's house, the first light of day poured into every corner of their yard, where the shadows had once danced ominously beneath the moonlight. That familiar, suffocating darkness had lifted, replaced by the soft, reassuring light of morning. For a brief moment we could breathe again. The weight pressing on our chests had eased, but even as the sun rose, there was a lingering sense of dread that refused to dissipate. Like the aftertaste of something bitter, it left a sour reminder that not everything is as safe as it seems. Darren's father, ever the pragmatic one, took charge. He gathered everyone together in the living room, discussing what steps needed to be taken next. There was talk of police involvement, of reporting the incident, and ensuring that the family remained vigilant against any further threats. Despite the sunlight breaking through the windows, the darkness of the previous night still clung to us. We knew that the terror we had experienced might be over for now, but that didn't mean we were safe. Not really. The unknown was still out there. The police arrived not long after, their sirens piercing the air like the final echo of a nightmare. They questioned everyone, gathering statements in a thorough attempt to piece together the timeline of events. Their questions were methodical, precise, yet there was an underlying urgency in their voices. They had a job to do, but they also knew something wasn't right. There was an unease in their eyes as they listened to our stories that seemed increasingly impossible to believe, even though we had lived them. One by one, we recounted the events of the night, detailing everything we could remember, hoping to provide some clarity amidst the chaos. I could see the officers jotting down notes, their brows furrowing as they tried to connect the dots. But there was something about the entire situation that didn't sit well with them. Their questions grew more pointed, their expressions more serious as they dug deeper into the mystery. They informed us that a strange woman had been spotted wandering around the property the evening before the party began. No one knew who she was or why she was there, but it was clear she was no ordinary visitor. Something about her was off, unsettling in a way that went beyond her mere presence. But no one had thought to call the police at the time, thinking it was just some eccentric neighbor or random passerby. Little did we know that the woman's presence was the first indication of a much darker force at work. As the morning wore on, we tried to regain some semblance of normalcy. Darren's mother prepared breakfast, her hands moving mechanically as she scrambled eggs and fried bacon, though her eyes seemed distant, as if she were lost in thought. We sat around the table, exchanging nervous glances, each of us unsure of what to say. We tried to laugh, to reassure ourselves that everything would be okay, but the atmosphere was thick with uncertainty. It was as if a shadow had settled over the room, a weight that none of us could shake. Despite the police's assurance that they would do everything possible to locate the woman and ensure our safety, there was still a gnawing feeling in my gut, the kind of feeling you get when you know you're not quite safe, but you can't quite put your finger on why. The fear was subtle, almost imperceptible at first, but it grew over the following days, like a slowly spreading stain that you can't scrub away. Weeks passed, and the unsettling events of that night faded into the background. Life went on, as it always does, but we remained vigilant. We checked in with each other regularly, ensuring that no one had experienced anything strange, no new encounters that might signal danger. But despite our best efforts to resume our normal routines, we couldn't shake the feeling that something was still lurking out there, something that wasn't quite done with us. Every night, I would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, listening for sounds, any sounds, that would betray the silence of my room. The wind outside, the creak of floorboards, the rustle of leaves scraping against the window. Every noise seemed amplified in the stillness of the night. Sometimes I would think I heard footsteps, slow and deliberate, approaching my door, but when I would get up to check, there would be nothing there, just the empty hallway bathed in the eerie glow of moonlight. It was as if the night had never truly ended, and it was always waiting, just beyond the veil of sleep, ready to creep back into our lives when we least expected it. As the years passed, we created new rituals, ways to honor the memory of that night and the people we had lost along the way. Each New Year's Eve became a time of reflection, a time to remember the good times we had shared, but also to acknowledge the dangers that lurked beneath the surface, waiting for their moment to strike. We gathered together every year, sharing stories and laughter, but always with a sense of caution. We had learned the hard way how fragile life can be, how quickly things can change. We no longer took our safety for granted, nor did we allow ourselves to be lulled into a false sense of security. The world, as we had learned, was full of unseen threats, and we had to remain vigilant. Each year, as we raised our glasses to toast the new year, we also raised them in silent remembrance for the things we could not forget, for the fear that had become a part of us, woven into the fabric of our lives, and for the knowledge that no matter how much time passed, some things, some feelings, never truly fade away. These stories are not just for entertainment. They are a reminder, a warning, that the world is filled with uncertainties, that life is fragile, and that the shadows we think we've left behind can often follow us longer than we realize. The fear may subside, but it never truly disappears. And sometimes the greatest terror isn't the immediate danger we face, but the knowledge that there is always something just beyond our sight, waiting for the right moment to strike. If you enjoyed this spine-chilling tale, filled with suspenseful twists and turns, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an opportunity to dive deeper into the realm of nightmares, where the unknown is always just around the corner. Because when the night isn't over, neither is the terror. If you enjoyed these spine-chilling tales, filled suspenseful twists, turns throughout journey shared here today, make sure subscribe channel, hit notification, bell, never miss opportunity, dive deeper into realm, nightmares waiting exploration next time around.